5 seconds. He's going to throw it. Howard leaps. He has it. Touchdown. Carolina back from the dead to tie the game with 2 seconds to go. Snap back, spot down. The kick is cleanly away. It is good.
And
Nick
it's
Weiler with a
Yes, sir.
54-yard field goal. And how about them Tar Heels? They do it.
Here's Kupak. Gives off to Amos. He's got it. He's unbelievable. Unreal.
Jordan back to kick. It's blocked again. Picked up. It'll be a touchdown, Carolina, for Bracy Walker. He blocked his second punt and scores his second touchdown of the season. It's 14-13. Mr. Jordan meet Mr. Walker. Bernard fields it at the 26. Heading to the far side. Gio at the 35. Gio, he's at the 50. No, he's not. Yes, he is. Gio is going to take it for a touchdown. Are you kidding me?
This is the Heel Tough Blog Podcast on Spreaker.com.
Hey guys, and welcome into another edition of the Heel Tough Blog Podcast. It's your host, Anthony Pagnotta here, and this is a Big Heads Media Group podcast. Wanted to mention that. Thank you to Big Heads Media Group for reaching out to me. I am now the Tar Heel football podcast on their network. They got some other college football podcasts that are on there if you want to check out some of those for our fans that are, maybe multiple fans. I know there's a couple. I know there's one fan in particular that's a Tar Heel and UCLA fan, so I know they do have a podcast on there. Big Heads Media, bigheadsmedia.com. That's where you can check out all that great stuff. That's where we're going to be on as well. So if you want to check out the podcast, you can go on there. But of course, you can still go to the normal areas. We encourage you to go to those normal areas: Apple iTunes, Google Play, or Google Podcast as it's called now, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all those great places where you can like and review the podcast. Make sure that you guys do that. Subscribe to the page as well. We'd love for you to do that so that you don't miss an episode of the Heel Tough Blog Podcast. Also, we want to hear your reviews because, well, we want you to criticize us because we love being criticized. But no, we want to hear your feedback. We'd love it. No matter if it's good or bad, just let us know. So we'd really appreciate that. Yeah, as always, you guys can check out the Heel Tough Blog for all sorts of content. Let's get to the opening drive of this podcast. And we start the opening drive with some talk about Jaquarius Conley, who committed to the Tar Heels back on August 15th. That was just this past Thursday. Commits to Carolina over South Carolina. It seemed like when he took his visit during the cookout, that was what kind of changed everything. And now the Tar Heels have one of the more talented players in the state of North Carolina. This was one of the guys that me and Zach Hubbard had told you we pretty much thought there was a space in this class saved for him no matter how many guys the Tar Heels took on. So he does commit. This is a big one. It was kind of strange, a little bit out of the blue for him when he announced that he was going to commit on August 15th. He announced that earlier in the month. We actually thought he was going to wait a little bit, but he decided to go ahead and commit to Carolina. So now the Tar Heels, they've got I think it's 2 or 3 of the best in-state guys. They do have the top 2 safeties, both Conley and Cameron Roseman Sinclair, who committed earlier this year back in January. That was actually Mac's first commit of the 2020 class. He's done a fantastic job, plain and simple. In-state, he has just knocked it out of the park. It has been phenomenal. And I wanted to ask you about this. I know that we thought Mac Brown was going to turn things around in state. Did you think that it would honestly happen this quickly?
If I say yes, do I come across as a biased fan?
Probably, but you know what? At this point, I don't think that anybody would be overly offended by that on this podcast.
I'm not going to say maybe to this level.
Okay, that was the question. Okay. Oh, no, you're good. You're good.
I did expect immediate turnaround because this.
Right.
We heard this. every time he was in front of a microphone the first 3 months he was on the job was importance, was fixing the in-state recruiting, building the relationships with the coaches and the players in the state. Like, that was just shoved in our faces over and over and over. So, like, he made it as a...
Right.
And it wasn't a bad thing. It was just, like, it gotten so bad under Larry that this is a major emphasis of me coming back. Mm-hmm. So, I figured there'd be a great uptick right away. Maybe not to the level that we're seeing right now. I thought maybe into year 2, year 3. I guess the question is, if it's already this good now, what's it going to look like when he's in year 3 and we're winning games again?
Right. I mean, it's kind of weird. Like, how do you go up from here? Because you look at the significant names in the state. Desmond Evans aside because he hasn't committed yet, but he is projected very heavily to the Tar Heels as well. I mean, his crystal ball is almost completely towards the Tar Heels at this point because he's only been on a visit to Chapel Hill. He's never been anywhere else in the country. So, yeah, Mac Brown's knocking it out of the park, it seems like, with him. Barring some drastic change, he'll probably commit. You look at – here's my thing. Can we remember a guy in this class so far that we've said, okay, we really want in-state that he's missed? Like, he has got everybody that we've really wanted. So, I mean, it's just crazy to think that, you know, I mean, I was listening to the Cover 2 podcast, which is a podcast that Athlon Sports does. Our guy Steven Lasson, who we had on earlier in the year, he's going to come on each year and help us preview and everything. You know, he's a part of the podcast from time to time, but it's Braden Gall and Mitch Light, who I love. I think they're both phenomenal. They said that right now, they still think NC State is the recruiting school in the state of North Carolina. They asked, how quickly can that change? I think it maybe has.
It has. No, it's not a maybe.
This podcast, I'll give it to them. This podcast was done a few weeks ago, so they hadn't landed Connolly. I think Connolly maybe is that straw that breaks the camel's back for people to say, okay, it has definitely changed, because this is a 4-star guy. You now got the top two safeties in the state that are committed to Carolina. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. I didn't think it would happen this quickly. Like, I thought my expectation for Mac's first class, because I don't count the 2019 class because that was split between him and Larry. I thought, technically, well, towards the end, pretty much not.
75% of that class, that was Mac Brown, so
very close. Which is in the 30s, but he kept some of Larry's guys, which is why I don't penalize him. So what I'm saying, 2020 class, the first full class for Mac back, I thought maybe high 30s might sneak into the low 20s, because we had heard, do people really know who do these kids know who Mac Brown is? Do they think of him as more than just a guy that's on TV? He has done that work in not a matter of years, a matter of months.
Yeah. Which just reiterates to the argument we had last December when we made the hire.
Right.
He's done everything he said he was going to do.
Exactly.
Which just reiterates why that was the right decision for Carolina football.
Is there a chance that when he fully retires and you look back on Mac Brown, is there a chance that nationally people will be able to ask the question, is he the best recruiter ever? Because there has to be an argument, right? Because look at the amount of talent, even at Texas. Now, here's the thing. He didn't do a lot late with that talent. But you look at the talent that he brought in, and then you look at now what he's doing at Carolina so quickly. There is a conversation to be had. I think there is.
There's a conversation. I think it ends shortly with Nick Saban winning 6 titles.
Okay, but how much of that is about his staff more than just him as a recruiter? I don't know how good. Now, Dabo, yes.
He's got the moxie. He relates to these kids as good as anybody in the country. was effectively why he got the job when Clemson gave him the jobs, because, well, he's going to recruit and get the talent level back up, and he did that. So there's going to be a discussion. I think if he wins here, and we both think he's going to win, that only helps the argument. Because if you get the talent and then you win.
But again, it is recruiting. That, to me, recruiting and winning together is more of a coaching thing, which I'm not trying to say. See, I'm not going to make that argument. He is not better than Nick Saban. Sorry. I love Mac. He is not better than Nick Saban.
If they don't win after year 2 or year 3, the recruiting is going to drop. That's science.
I think a little bit, but I'm going to tell you, Mac Brown is so good with talking and really just connecting with these kids that I think it's going to be really tough. I said this the other night when I was reviewing the open practice, which we'll get to here in just a second, just a short little one. My sister just went to Carolina as a freshman. First night she was up there, they have a little like pep rally thing. I don't know. They called it something. And Mac spoke at it. Keep in mind, she has no clue who Mac Brown is. She's not a diehard sports person. Like, she knows who Roy is. She knows the names. But honestly, like, if I showed her a picture of Roy Williams and Dean Smith and said, tell me which is which, she probably wouldn't be able to tell me who's who. But here's the thing. He was there talking, and she said, I really like Mac a lot. She's like, he just knows how to talk to people. You know, I'm telling you, like, Mac, I think Mac could literally go into a store and sell you year-old milk. Like, he is that good. He could tell you, convince you to take year-old milk over the new milk. Like, that's how good Mac Brown is. Very weird analysis. I didn't know what to compare there.
You've now referenced a straw breaking a camel's back. And
that's a real reference. You actually think that's not a real reference?
I'm just saying, like,
that's a real reference.
What's going on?
The milk is not. That was one that I just came up with.
I just don't know what the hell's going on with you tonight. So
I'm bringing out. I'm expanding the mind, thinking outside the box.
You're
but Mac,
growing.
there it is. But Mac is like, I'm telling you, man. Like, when it comes to making guys feel at home, I think Mac Brown is really tough to beat. I don't know if there's another guy that can do that. Dabo, I think, is as close as it comes. Because I feel like Dabo, you know, look, we don't know because we don't follow Clemson football that in depth. I feel like Dabo is a guy that's regarded as someone that's going to know every recruit's name that he's targeting. He's going to know background on them. He's going to know the family, connect with them. That's how Mac Brown is. So, I don't know. To me, I think there's an argument for best recruiter. Best coach, I don't know. I mean, I think he has an argument, but to me, like, Nick Saban and Bear Bryant is your argument. But that's a totally different argument. So, okay, so let's transition. Open practice. I was there on Monday night.
After I wasn't invited to
You had to work.
And I would have gone out to work to go to Chapel Hill.
Okay.
You just didn't want me there.
Partially true, but
wow.
But no. Of course, I wanted you there. But I honestly thought, okay, this dude's definitely going to have to work. I honestly thought you were going to be going and working for your dad's company, who is the sponsor of your podcast. So I was almost 100% certain that you were going to be going up there to work. So that's the reason I didn't ask you. But, okay, so we went out to the open practice. Me and actually my sister joined me as well. I would say that we could have her give us some analysis. Not a chance. She knows that Sam Howell's on the football team, and that's about it. She did go to kindergarten with him. Interesting statistic there for you. He is the starting quarterback, though. That's a nice transition into talking about Sam Howell. And he was out there with the ones, looked, what you would expect from him. Pretty good. Really didn't take a whole lot of risks in the team drills that we saw again. They didn't run a lot with the team. It was one session of full team drills where you had offensive and defensive line out there. They did a little bit of 7-on-7, but not a ton of that really either. But he looked pretty good. There was one play that stuck out to me in particular where there was a little bit of pressure. He got out of the pocket rolling to his right and did a great job keeping his eyes downfield. drew the defender in that was out in space. I believe it was a linebacker. I think it might have been Jake Lawler, and then had great job to dump it down to Daz Newsome. So really, what that play showed me, Sam's very intelligent. He's got the football knowledge. We've heard everything from him. Everything from guys around him that he is a football mind. He's a great guy. Comparisons to, you guys heard it here on the Heel Tough Blog podcast. Our guy Jacob Turner over at Tar Heel Illustrated compared him to Brett Favre. There was, and that's not an unpopular opinion. I was listening to WFNZ a couple of days ago, and the guy that covers the high school football area, he does it on his own independent site. There's a newspaper that covers the area, but a guy named Tim Winters who does just a fantastic job. Check his stuff out at ucnc.com. We're going to try to get him on at some point. I don't know if it's before the season or maybe even after that first game to talk about Sam and some of the guys that they got in Union County, because the Tar Heels have some targets out there. But he compared him to Brett Favre as well. He said that he knew it. He thought of that comparison in his sophomore year of high school. So this is something that's been going on for a long time. Remember, I compared him to Mitch Trubisky when I first saw him. I have come around on the comparison to Baker Mayfield, which is what we've really heard a lot of. And I think that's probably the best comparison for him. A guy that just can make all the throws at all three levels. Guy that has enough mobility. He's a little bit different than Baker in that he's going to be he can lower a shoulder and run you over. But really just a guy that is going to be in the film room all the time, knows football, loves football. There's no question about that at all. So, I really think that they made the right decision out of the three quarterbacks. The good thing for Carolina fans, that was the first practice after the decision was made official, and Cade Fortin and Jace Ruder were both out there. Both guys look good as well. I think that there were some other guys that stood out. If you guys want to find out who that was, just go to the Heel Tough blog Facebook page. We got the live video that I had up there. It was while I was driving home, so you can't see me. Unfortunately, most of the video is dark because I had to sit it in my cup holder while I was driving home. I was trying to multitask because I wasn't going to wait until like 12 a.m. when I got home to do it. It's a 2.5 hour drive. I decided why not do it then. It's like what? I think like 30 minutes, 30 minutes. So yeah, it's pretty good. It's got a couple of good nuggets in there. Some of the guys that stood out. So yeah, go ahead and check that out. Heel Tough blog on Facebook. So we'll move to our final topic that I wanted to talk about. We'll get a little more input from you here on this one in the opening drive, which is Cameron Kelly, the defensive back that, Taylor Vippolis said earlier in fall camp he thinks that he would start nickelback if he was deemed eligible by the NCAA. Well, here's the problem. He is 10 days away from the start of his true freshman season at the college level, and he does not know whether or not he is eligible to play this season. This is getting a little ridiculous now at this point that we don't have a decision on him. Like, we are a week and a half away. How much closer can you wait until the game? We were joking about, I made this joke earlier, like, are they going to wait until he is like in the locker room about 3 o'clock the day of the game and just call him up, be like, hey Mac, by the way, if you want him out there, he's eligible, go ahead and throw him out there.
Yeah, this just shows the hypocrisy of the NCAA, how some kids get decided on immediately.
Tate Martell.
And this kid, like you said, we're a week and a half away.
What more? How long does it take to look over this case? It's really pretty simple. He went to Auburn. He had a family member, I believe it's his mom, but I could be wrong, that had an illness. He transferred to Carolina to be closer. You have the wise-ass, sarcastic comments of people saying, shouldn't he have transferred to Virginia or Virginia? Look up the distance between the locations, people. Carolina is closer than the other two to Virginia Beach. It makes no sense, but it's the reason why Carolina has had a lot of success recruiting the Tidewater area. Now you add in Dre Bly, that's the reason they'll have more success. But what more does the NCAA need from him? And also, there were some other guys that are out there. We saw the cornerback James Hudson, who transferred from Michigan to Cincinnati, citing that, there was a disagreement with Jim Harbaugh. He's also had some mental illness problems that he's been going through. Wanted to transfer to Cincinnati. I believe it's also closer to home for him. You have Brock Huffman, who transferred from Coastal Carolina up to Virginia Tech. He had a family member that got sick. The campus is, I believe, 105 miles from his hometown. There is a 100-mile radius where you are automatically deemed eligible. The NCAA had to make a decision and decided to deny him eligibility. And then you look at a guy like KJ Sales also, who was on Carolina a year ago, decided to make the transfer. The rule that as we know it is if there is a coaching change, that is one of the things that the NCAA will give you a waiver for. Assuming that is what KJ applied for. I don't know, but I'm assuming that. How is he not eligible at this point? He's another one that is waiting to be deemed eligible. So, what are we waiting on here? I don't understand it. And from this perspective, Carolina, is not extremely deep in the defensive backfield. We kind of need this young man, do we not? Especially with Trey Morrison moving to outside corner.
Yeah, no, this is a need for Carolina on many different levels. And I just would have figured after Mac Brown took a couple press conferences to blatantly call the NCAA about this situation.
Called him out of media days, too.
That this would have now been resolved.
Right. I'm just wondering, so, are the defensive backs just kind of the last ones that they're getting to? Are they going, position group by position group, how I'm previewing it? And defensive backs is just kind of at the end, and they're just, saying, okay, we're going to go through all the defensive backs on, let's say, Thursday or Friday. Because, how much closer can you get to the season? Because I know what's going to happen, right? They're going to say, well, we were going to make him eligible, but it's too close to the season. We don't know if he's going to be able to be in the right condition. We don't want to put him at risk, so we're going to deem him ineligible. But, yeah, no, I don't get it. The NCAA is I don't know what more they could want from Cameron. I don't know how much later they can wait. It's time to start doing something. You guys, I haven't seen anybody legitimate deemed eligible in the last month or so. I know Florida State, somehow Jordan Travis is eligible from Louisville, which I guess that's because of the coaching transfer. How the hell is he eligible, but KJ Sales isn't eligible? Makes no sense. So, yeah, the NCAA, bunch of jackasses as normal. We know that. So, yeah, we'll move on from that. And now let's get into our main topic. So we went through and we decided that this was how we were going to do this edition. We told you last time, and again, we're sorry for the layoff. We wanted to do it earlier. We had a lot of different things that were going on through work and everything. Unfortunately, this is not paying our bills. We have other things that pay our bills, so we can't do this, just full time whenever we want. We're doing the schedule breakdown, so we decided to go through, and we're going to do it easiest to hardest games on the schedule. And so, okay, when we did this in pre-production, I told you right out, we know the easiest game, we know the hardest game. We should get this out of the way, correct?
Yeah, Clemson the easiest.
Here we go.
Nah. Yeah, no, we agreed that Clemson's the toughest.
Definitely. Defending national champs look just as strong. They'll have to replace the defensive line, but they should do that, no problem.
And Mercer's the easiest FCS opponent.
Middle of the road FCS opponent as well. Not very good. So, yes, we agree on that. That's, again, Mercer is on November 23rd. That's the setup game for NC State. They've been doing that the last few years. Kind of like it. And then Clemson. See, I think Clemson's at an interesting spot. Can we just talk about this for a quick second? Do you think that there is any upset chance here because of where it is on the schedule? Because we've seen this with Clemson, that late September, mid-October area is where they have had some struggles since they've become the power. Do you think that this game has any chance of an upset?
Yes. There's a chance that Carolina can win the game.
Nick Dorman might.
Now, how do I say this and not sound dumb?
Okay, so you're not. Okay, this is.
There would be, I think, more of a chance.
Okay.
If Larry Fedora was still the coach.
Oh my God.
Only
please explain this.
Because now with Mac Brown back, I think there's just, and the energy around Carolina football, and let's say we win a couple games here and there, we're 2-1, whatever, entering that game, there's just going to be more focus, because I think Dabo Swinney is going to understand, okay, you're going against a Hall of Famer. There's just more, I think, I know it sounds dumb.
I could not disagree with you more, but there is a reasoning that you probably will agree with from my standpoint. I get what you're saying.
And that's why I think with Mac Brown, there's going to be more of attention on Carolina football than there would have been if Larry Fedora was the coach.
Okay.
So there would be the opportunity for them to sleepwalk.
Okay.
That went out the window when you hired a Hall of Famer, and he's done everything he said. Everything, the recruiting, the facilities,
right?
Blah blah blah. He's doing it. But it fits the mold for the road game that you're going to have, right. Even in the ACC. So it fits the mold, and it's just going to be, we're going to be there, and it's going to take a hell of an effort on our end to do it.
Yeah, everything pretty much has to go right. I'm going to tell you why I think there is a small chance. If anybody can get a team motivated, I trust Mac Brown to get them motivated. I don't think Larry would get them motivated.
Oh, I don't think either. I'm just saying, like,
I get what you're saying.
The look-over effect would have been there if Larry was still here.
Let's say they start really good to begin the year, which, okay, I'm going to be really honest. I'm not trying to give a lot away. I don't see them being 3-1 entering that game, because that's, I think, what you're saying, right? Because they play 4 games before then: South Carolina, Miami, App State, and
Wake Forest.
Wake. So I mean, if they come in 3-1, okay, yeah, because depending on who they beat, if they're 3-1, like, they've got to be at least close to being ranked, right? Like, that is a tough schedule out of the gate. It's one of the toughest, if not the toughest, in the ACC.
Yeah, no.
Right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I get what you're saying, but I think I'm going to trust Mac Brown to get these guys motivated, because we heard him say earlier in the year, and everybody took it out of context saying he was calling out Clemson. He said early in the year, I believe that I believe we can win every game. That's not saying I believe we will win every game. I believe we can win every game. So I think Mac Brown if there's someone that can do it, he's going to be able to get him motivated. And you also said another point. He's a Hall of Fame coach. So I trust him to call a game more than I trust Larry Fedora. I'm going to be honest. In late game situations, I trust him. I'm assuming that if we were leading that game in the fourth quarter, Larry on 3rd and 1 would throw a deep ball, because that's Larry Fedora.
We'd be behind the chains.
Yeah, right. Literally, dude, we would have British Brooks, the walk-on the field. No slight to British, but he would say all 3 of our running backs were behind the chains, so we had to throw in a walk-on. We couldn't run it. We had to throw it. So we got those 2 out of the way. So now how do you want to do the rest of this? So we're going to go easiest to hardest, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So this was tough, because I am still looking at this and still having a hard time with this. But we went with App State as the second easiest game, which I told you this in pre-production. People are going to have a lot of issues with this. Sun Belt champions return a good amount on both sides of the ball. They do lose some talent. Jalen Moore, the starting running back, gone. But look, they got Zach Thomas still there. Remember, this team almost went into Happy Valley in week 1 last year and almost came out with a victory against Penn State. So they are not going to be an easy team to beat. Now, here's the other thing. Coaching change, but it's Eli Drinkowitz, who was at NC State and had success against Carolina as well. So there's a lot of factors here.
There is. I think it helps that this is Carolina's fourth game on the schedule.
Yes.
So we're a little bit more comfortable on the system on offense and defense.
8 days to prepare, or 7 days in between. Again, not much, but still a little bit of something.
It is a long week.
Yeah, there you go. It should have been a longer week, but we got our game against Wake moved, of course.
So we have that. It's at home.
Yes.
And we discussed in an earlier podcast, I think this team, if they're going to make a bowl game, they got to win a lot of games at home.
You have them losing one game at home. That's your bowl prediction.
That was.
Yes.
So, do you got that? I think the reason why for me, the coaching change plays a factor here.
I agree. It's a step back. No slight to Drinkowitz, who I think he could do a good job there, but it's still early.
He went to a good place to begin his head coaching career, a place that you can win at, but he's never ran a program before. That's a fact.
It's true.
And you're preparing against Mac Brown. Mac Brown's gonna have an edge on you any day of the week. So I think while they've got probably a top 3 group of 5 quarterback. And they have some talent on both sides of the ball.
Top 3. Oof. I'd have to look. Mason Font.
Font.
I'm not going to get exactly the nerdiness here of college football.
So they got some guys, but this is a game Carolina should win.
I agree with that. I do agree with that. And again, the debate was not we are not saying. I was not thinking in my mind, man, this should be number 2. No, not even close. But I thought there was a debate with the next game. Why don't we go ahead and talk about that game really quickly? Oh, I do want to mention this, though. One interesting factor for Mac Brown in this game against App State, this is him coaching against the first job that he had. Only there for 1 year. Can you tell me where he left App State for?
Tulane.
Wrong. He left to become the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma before taking the Tulane job.
All right, nerd.
There you go.
Now moving on.
There you go.
After you have to show me up.
No.
After you have to show me up.
I'm the football guy. I'm supposed to know this. This is what you're supposed to do in basketball, and you do this sometimes. So this is a slight back at you. So now we move on to Georgia Tech. At Georgia Tech, the reason that this game is so low is because they are making one of the most ridiculous transitions that you're going to see. Not that it's a wrong transition. You are going complete polar opposites, where you're going to have a guy in Jeff Collins who's going to want to run they're going to spread it out. There's a chance they could try to go 3 or 4 wide receivers at some point there. Now, it's going to take a while because I don't think they have the players just yet. They don't have the quarterback either. I'm going to be honest. What we're hearing is that 2 guys that were that were basically recruited for the read option are battling for the starting quarterback job. It could be a really rough first year for Jeff Collins, who I like and think is going to do a good job because he comes out of Temple, which is the reason why Manny Diaz is going to be so successful. He came out of Temple, right? 41 days. I love that joke. One of my favorite jokes to make. But Georgia Tech, there's so much that they got to rebuild. I mean, their defense, they lose a lot as well. And then, you talk about from the offensive standpoint, not only the skill positions, the offensive line has to change everything that they've known over the past few years. Cut blocking is not going to work in a spread offense. Just not going to happen. So you have to readjust, learn an entirely new blocking scheme. But you have a reason why this is third. That was interesting. It's the reason we probably ultimately went with this as number 3 instead of number 2.
I'm trying to remember the reason from this conversation.
It's a road game.
And that's why.
Come on. I can't be giving you the answers to your own points. Come on.
I probably may have had them higher when we were doing it, but we settled on them here. Just because the simple fact is Carolina's won 1 time in Atlanta.
And we had to come back in that game
since
to win.
Mac Brown left the first time. One time. I mean, so this is not.
And our quarterback caught a touchdown pass.
This is not a place where we're historically good at.
No.
But the drastic change in philosophy gives Carolina, I think, a really good chance to win the game.
I agree.
As in years past, where we haven't matched up well with them on the defensive side of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's definitely going to be interesting to see them in shotgun and 3 and 4 wide and running tempo.
We get to see them against Clemson in the how rough is that game going to be for them? By the way, that's going to be awful. Good luck, Georgia Tech. That's not really the way to welcome you into a new scheme. Is hey, here's the defending national champions.
Right?
Is that a road game?
No, it's
Is it? Oh, it's in Clemson. Oh my God. Good luck. Maybe they'll be demoralized when we play them, by the way. So that's one of the reasons that they're so low. The next one, number 4, we have Duke. This was one that I kind of thought, could be debated as the second easiest game. But when you look at it a little bit more, they return more on defense than I realized. I'm going to be honest. I did not think they returned a lot on defense, but they return a lot on defense from a team that really wasn't great a year ago on defense. You lose Daniel Jones. Thank God he is gone from Duke, because we cannot stop him. We are the one team that he has destroyed consistently in his career. He destroyed our 2016 season, and then last year he took us to the woodshed in a game that if we stop him at all, we probably could have won. So again, Quentin Harris is their starting quarterback. They return a decent amount on the offensive side of the football as well. They do have to replace their outside wide receivers, so that'll be interesting to see. They lose. Really, that's the area that they've got to find guys that can catch the football. So I think overall talent-wise, Duke is down there. I think this is probably our best chance to beat them in a while. And am I wrong to say that? I mean, 16 we should have beaten them.
Yeah, no.
But this is the best chance, especially in the last 2 years.
Yeah,
I would
this
say
is a winnable game for Carolina. It hasn't been the last 2 years, which really says a lot about where we were as a program.
Yes, it does.
That winning games against Duke wasn't expected. But this year, with what they've lost at the quarterback position, defensively, I think they lost all 3 of their linebackers.
Two. They only played 2. They played like a 4-2-5.
So
yeah, you're right. Joe Giles Harris, Ben Humphreys, both gone. So,
this is a game Carolina on paper. You're at home. You should win. It's that simple. I like it where it's in the schedule, where it's in the end of October. So we should be well in tune with what we're doing offensively and defensively.
Right. If Howell is struggling early in the year, he should be settled in by then, and the offense should be rolling.
the way it lays out at home and where it falls in the schedule, I think is a good place for us.
Okay, so where do we draw? Okay, I think this game is still in this tier, and then we drew a line, pretty much, right? Because I'm still trying to figure out what the hell Pittsburgh is, and we're in year 7 of them being in the ACC. I'm not going to put this, they were absolutely atrocious on offense last year if they couldn't run the football. Darren Hall and Quadre Olison were the only good things about that offense. They're both gone now. That team could be historically bad on offense if Kenny Pickett doesn't step up, if a new running back doesn't emerge, and if their wide receivers can't become a little more dynamic. Now, they got a guy in Tasir Mack who's pretty good. Defensively, they're not bad, but they lost a lot, especially at linebacker, and they just lost Rashard Weaver, their top pass rusher. He's out for the year. He actually just got injured. That was their top pass rusher from a year ago. So they got a lot that they've got to replace. And we know their secondary has not been anything to write home about since they arrived in the ACC. What was it, 2 years ago they finished, I believe, or no, maybe it was 16 when Trubisky absolutely tore him a new one, that they finished last in the country in passing defense. It's very weird with them because Pat Narduzzi is supposed to be a guy, like, okay, the offense struggling isn't a shock. The defense struggling shocks me. This team won the ACC Coastal last year. What in the hell is Pittsburgh? Can we figure this out? Like, is there an answer or no?
They are what they are, which is a team that can run the ball, can't stop anybody unless you're in it one. They played for a conference championship doing so. We put it here, I think, because I talked to you because it's a road game on a short week. Well, actually, no, it's a long week for us, right? Don't we have a bye before the Yes. We had the bye, so it's not a short week, but it is a road game. I know we've yet to lose to them since they joined the ACC, but this is new territory. You got a new coach. Now, granted, we're upgrading the coach, but, it is what it is.
I honestly think that if you want to make the argument here that this is a game that you feel you would rather have Larry on the sidelines than Mac, just because Larry could not lose to them. He tried to lose games to them, I swear to God, and he still couldn't lose to them.
But this is out of our road slate. This and probably Georgia Tech are our most winnable games.
Yes, I think without a doubt they are on a tier by themselves as the road games. Like, yes, there is no doubt in my mind that they are the two easiest road games that we have on the schedule. I think the reason that they're fifth is because, they won the ACC Coastal last year. I asked the question, can they find a running back? Well, they seem to be able to do that every single time that they lose a great running back. Now, they got to replace two of them, but they've got guys that are capable of doing just that. We were trying to recruit one, Mikhail Salahuddin. I think he's going to be the guy. I think they might have someone else that's projected in front of him on the depth chart. They'll always find guys there. My question is for them, is Kenny Pickett better than last year? Because he was not good.
They better pray to God he is.
He is. Look, he's not the worst FBS quarterback. That's Arthur Sikowski, who threw 4 touchdowns and 18 interceptions. Kenny Pickett might be number 2. He is not good. He beat Miami, and that was about it. I wonder if he beat Miami and then said, you know what, I think my career's pretty good here. I'm not going to do it. I'm okay with this being the only win that I have on my resume. That's significant. So, but I think, also where it's at on the schedule, because by that time, we'll know what Pittsburgh is for the 2019 season. Now, 2020 Pittsburgh, like we said, probably will be a completely different team because they change year to year. We still haven't figured them out. But by that time, I think it'll be a tougher game. So then we have where we draw the line in the sand. Those are on a separate tier. These ones, we laughed about this because I made the argument that Wake Forest could be our second toughest or third toughest game on the schedule. We have them as our 6th easiest or 6th toughest game on the schedule. It's interesting because I don't like going to BB&T Field. Again, not a great environment ever. I don't care what anybody says. That's not a tough place to go in and win.
And that's why it's scary.
It's very weird. It's on a Friday night, which I can't stand the fact that it's on a Friday night either. By the way, how bad is that for Wake Forest recruiting, that the game against your in-state rival, granted it's at a conference game, which we'll talk about that in a second, but the night against your conference rival, who you're recruiting in-state against, you're playing on a Friday night when you can't even invite recruits because they're going to be playing a high school football game. Good job. Good job, Wake Forest athletic director. Did well there. But there's some things to like about Wake Forest. They did make the decision at quarterback. I thought they went with the wrong guy. I like Jalen Newman. I think he brings a lot to the table, more mobile. He showed last year that he's pretty good. Here's the thing about them. They have an injury at quarterback every year, so Sam Hartman will probably play at some point. The question is, do we face Sam Hartman or do we face Jalen Newman, who won the job? We'll have to wait and see for that. But early in the year, they have some questions defensively. They do lose Greg Dortch, who was a freak at wide receiver in the slot. They got to find that next guy, but, they seem to always find one of those guys. Remember Michael Campanaro, who just killed us the last time we played him? So they'll probably find someone. Here's the thing with Wake. This is the 6th toughest game on the schedule, but, it took us a while to kind of slide them down here. This is still a tough game, right?
Yeah, it's tricky. Friday night on the road in an environment that it's oddly tough to play in because there's no energy there. So a lot of times
it echoes. That's what's scary.
You see teams struggle getting motivated to go play here. It's early in the season. It's our 3rd game of the year.
Right. They will be very motivated for this game because I was listening to FNZ, as I know. I bring it up a lot on here. And they had Dave Clawson. How the heck? I was blanking on him for a minute. And he said he focused on that game a lot when they were talking about the schedule. This means more to Wake Forest than it does to Carolina. So that's the other part that really scares me. They're going to be motivated for this game. Where is Carolina's motivation level, especially if you come off a win against Miami the week before and you have a 6-day turnaround to play Wake Forest?
I don't think that's a problem with Mac Brown coaching the team. I think this team will be up to play every game, no matter the record of the opponent. So that, for me, isn't a worry yet. My worry is just Wake Forest. You don't look at their record. They're a good football team. They just play on the wrong side of the division.
There's a legitimate chance that, believe it or not, they can have the best record in the state of North Carolina at the end of the season, maybe outside of App State because they play in the Southern.
Yeah. So this is a sound football team. You know what you're getting, which sometimes is hard to prepare for because they're good at what they do because they know they got to do these certain things, which is run the ball and play solid defense, and they do it really well.
Their defense wasn't great last year, and they do lose a lot. So we'll see.
They're going to play good defense, and they're going to run the ball. That's what's going to happen. I'm telling you right now.
I think if our offense is clicking the way that we think it can potentially do, if it gets into a rhythm in the first 2 games, I think we can score a lot against them. Now a lot, I think, is probably 30s. High 30s, low 40s.
That's how we're going to have to.
Right.
If we want to win, we're going to have to.
So if our offense is clicking, I think we can cause problems because they got a lot of question marks defensively with what they've lost in the last 2 years defensively. They lost a lot. They got a lot of things they got to fill.
So it's tricky. This is going to be a game that if they want to make a bowl game, you're going to have to steal maybe 1 or 2 on the road. This is one of them you got to find a way to maybe steal.
There you go. So we have that sixth easiest, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So now actually we flip over to the harder games on the schedule. So we put NC State here. This is a weird one to predict because right now, okay, there's rumors their quarterback battle's not even over. They think that we heard all offseason Matthew McKay's the guy, no doubt. All of a sudden, there's some buzz that Devin Leary could come up and steal that job. He was a guy that was a 4-star recruit last year. I think he was at the Elite 11. Don't really know. Honestly, could care less. But here's the thing about them. They are going to have a good defensive line. They have lost and replaced guys each of the last 2 years with ease. They still got a lot of talent there. That hasn't changed, and I think it'll be the same thing this year. They're going to be able to run the football, which is where they have killed us under Larry Fedora, and we hope that they won't do it to us again. Ricky Person is a really, really good player. And again, it's hard to say that because, believe me, I hate talking NC State football. Ricky Person is a good player, and he is going to be one to keep an eye out for. So I think there's some things about State that you just know they're going to be able to do. But I feel like they're going to take a step back this year. That's kind of why I have them in 6th. And I think that the team that we'll talk about next, you could debate who's going to be better out of the two. But I also think that, believe it or not, Carter Finley's an easier stadium to go into than the one that we're going to talk about in 5th.
Yeah, State, they are what they are. Like you said, they're gonna be able to run the ball. Their defensive line is they're now in that.
Are they second best in the ACC right now at just putting together defensive lines?
Yeah,
they're not better than Clemson, but they're second.
And now they're being talked about nationally as like a place that they breed defensive linemen. That's what they're doing.
Right.
So you have that, and then you look at just what the game is. It's a rivalry game. We're State's biggest rival, so when they beat us, it's their Christmas, it's their season. So you have to deal with that factor, and it plays a lot into it because there's just a lot more emotion from them in that game than there is from us in that game. So with that in mind, they are going to regress. I don't think they'll be as good as they've been in years past. But it's still not going to be easy for Carolina to waltz in there and get a win.
Oh, I agree. I think, first of all, stand a lot better chance in this game than we did under Larry. Not even close. You want to talk about getting motivated for a game? Remember, it was Trubisky, so it was 16. How we came out in the game on Black Friday with all black jerseys and looked lethargic. That's not going to happen under Mac Brown.
Especially with the comments that Dave Doran has made about Mac Brown.
What a shocker that jackass has something to say, because he just continues to make an ass of himself talking about other teams in the division.
There's going to be our head coach will be motivated to go out there and win that game.
I agree.
And I think there'll be some tension in the media that week because Mac Brown didn't forget what he said.
No, I don't think Mac Brown forgets much at all.
And
yes,
for our guys, how many players on this? No one on the roster is beating State.
Yeah, and I also think, look, there is a lot of tension that was added to this game after last year. There was a full team brawl, and we saw it in 16 too, right before halftime. Both sidelines cleared. So, everybody wants to make the joke, well, they're not really our rival. In football, they are our rival. We have gotten into 2 fights over the past 4 years against this team. They are our rival. Let's admit it, okay? I think the motivation is going to be high. I agree. And look, you might say that, you're being a homer because you say that Dave Doran makes terrible comments. Dave Doran is maybe the biggest idiot in the entire NCAA amongst coaching people that are coaches, maybe besides Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is a wild one. But Dave Doran just makes all these ridiculous comments, and it's like, Dave, bro, you have not won 10 games in your time there. Win 10 games, and then let's talk. So, I agree. There's a lot of tension. Mac will not forget that. There will be extra motivation. And look, we want to beat him for the first time in 4 years. It will be 4 years by that time. So, I agree. Number 5, toughest game that we have on the schedule is Virginia Tech. And it seems weird to put them this low on the list because of what they've been. And I'm a guy that still thinks Justin Fuente is a good coach. I don't think that they should fire him at the end of the year. Bud Foster last year, shockingly terrible defense. Just shocking. Carolina almost beat this team last year. And here's the thing about them. They were young last year on defense. They return a lot of guys, but I still don't know how much talent is honestly there. They do lose some guys at wide receiver. I'm still kind of questioning as to whether or not they're going to have those guys ready by the time they play us. That's kind of mid-season. I don't know if they're going to have anybody that really steps up, because last year there were a couple of guys that we were keeping an eye on going into that game. The main guy was Damon Hazelton, and Patrice Rene shut him down. He had one catch the whole game. And here's the other thing. I don't think Ryan Willis is all that great. I think he's okay. He can win you games. He is not a guy that scares me. Am I wrong for saying that? He's not a guy that puts fear in me. He transferred in from Kansas, so that should probably tell you all you need to know right there. But he's not a guy that I'm going to say, oh man, we're facing Ryan Willis this week. I'm overly concerned.
I mean, I've had nightmares about him since
here we
he
go.
drove
Here we go.
99 yards and beat us last year. No, I mean, look.
I think that this year's defense will be better than last year, so I don't think that would happen.
I look at this game. It's on the road. It's Virginia Tech.
Yeah, that's my main thing.
We don't go there and win. Fuente, for some reason, his job's on the line. For some, it doesn't make any sense. They had a bad year last year, but that was bound to happen anyway. Foster is retiring after this year, so they'll be motivated to go out and send him out the right way. And I think there's too much talent at Virginia Tech for them not to win at the level they're expected to win. I've seen a lot of people have them winning the side of the division. So not that it'd be so shocking because it's the Coastal. But yeah, I mean, it's not going to be easy. Carolina's only won there twice since Mac Brown left. So
I actually, on paper, Georgia Tech is tougher.
Yeah. So
very strange.
Yeah.
Very strange. Yes, and the one time that we won there under Larry, we probably shouldn't have won that game if we're being really honest. Mainly because we gave the game away. We were the better team on the field that game, but we tried to give it away in classic Larry Fedora fashion. But I agree. I mean, it's definitely a tough environment to go into. This is the one game that, if it's at 12 o'clock, I will be happy. Please do not make this a night game. That's the one thing about Carolina. If they get off to a hot start, and Virginia Tech's pretty decent, and they make this into a night game, we are not going into Lane Stadium and winning a night game. It is not happening. No way. That is, I think, maybe outside of Clemson, the toughest place to win a game at night. So we're hoping for that. Okay, so now we get to the top four. We went with Miami here, partially because of where it's at on the schedule. I become more convinced of this because I just don't see where they're going to be knocking it out of the park offensively. Defensively, no questions. One of the best defenses in the country this year. I think definitely a top 10 team on paper. Their linebacking core loaded, secondary still very good, defensive line. We remember last year against us and against plenty of other teams, they were fantastic. I believe they may have even led the country in tackles for loss. They are a legitimate defense. The offense is the problem for them. Their running game has a lot of question marks. Lose Travis Homer from last year was their leading rusher. Quarterback, Jaron Williams wins the job. He was the guy that was probably predicted in most preseason magazines to be third on the depth chart. Somehow wins the job, overtaking maybe the cockiest human on the face of the planet, Tate Martell, who now apparently is moving to wide receiver. And then at wide receiver, they do have Jeff Thomas. He comes back after what was just a weird situation where he was maybe kicked off the team. Not really sure what happened with Mark Richt and everything. Looked at going to Illinois and then decided to come back. So they do return him, but they lose Lawrence Cager, who goes as a graduate transfer to Georgia. So they've got a lot of question marks on the offensive side. Their offensive line also has not been good in a very long time. When you look at Miami, I think the biggest thing, though, is the fact that Manny Diaz is a second-time head coach. 41-day stint at Temple, legendary.
I'm on the verge of walking out after all these jokes. Now, look.
It's true. He was there. It's technically a tenure. Did he land a recruit? We still haven't figured that out. We got to look that up. But Manny Diaz, here's the other thing about this that's really interesting as well. Not only is he a first-time head coach, he is also a former Mac Brown disciple, so who's going to know this guy better than Mac Brown? There's a lot of elements to this.
The reason why, though, this game still falls where it is on terms of tough, defensively, outside of Clemson, might probably the best defense we'll see all year.
Yes.
And it's the second game of the year.
Yeah, I agree with that.
If this game was in October, we maybe flip this with a Virginia Tech or an NC State maybe. Maybe it slides down the list a little bit. And that's why. I think it does help that this game's at home. This game's at night. The first night game in Kenan Stadium since Mac Brown's return. There's going to be a whole lot of energy in that stadium. I told you the other night, that is, of the games I know for sure I'm going to, the one I am most looking forward to being in Kenan Stadium for. Because the energy
crazy.
The energy level is going to be off the charts.
I think so as well.
I don't even have to drink beer to walk in there. I'll be drunk on the environment of a Carolina football game.
White Claw, which is apparently legal in the stadium now. Should we mention that on the show, or should we not mention that? Because I'm a little concerned about our fans.
I encourage all these fans to get, as Aaron Rodgers pleaded for the Packers.
Oh, jeez.
Let's get drunk and cause hell. Let's make it fun. I'm going to go there and have a lot of fun. Be professional, be courteous, but let's have fun and let's have a freaking environment. And I about dropped the F-bomb there.
Whoa. I thought you did. I may have to go back and cut that out.
It was frickin'. But, I mean, let's make an environment, and
Did you just say Aaron Rodgers, by the way? Isn't he the worst beer drinker ever? Could barely chug half a glass? We need to chug like Mitch, okay?
Baker Mayfield did it better. But, yeah, I mean, look, I'm all for it.
Not on this podcast.
So, I don't know.
Okay, yeah, no, I think if we had beer and wine sales in the last 2 years, there would be a lot of concern. Five wins over the course of 2 years will drive you to drink in the stadium. This year it'll be a little bit different, but yeah, that environment I think will hands down be the best environment of the year. Partially because I really don't know where this team's going to be at after that first 5-game stretch. This game, though, this is the best thing about this game. No matter the result in Charlotte, this game will be sold out. I don't think it's officially sold out yet, but it will be. And this game will be absolutely nuts. The environment, like you said, I think it's going to be just crazy. So I'm glad that I'm going to be there. That is, what do we know that? What is the Saturday night game that week? Is that Clemson and Texas A&M?
3:30 kick.
That's right. I forget what the Saturday night game is. Oh, Texas LSU. It's week 2. I'm going to be honest. Part of me is slightly disappointed that I have to miss that game. And when I say slightly, like maybe 0.1%, I'm with you. That game is that is the sexiest game on the schedule from a fan's perspective. Now, the thing that's a little scary about that game as well, Miami has 2 weeks to prepare for that game because their first game that they play is in week 0. So they will have 2 weeks. So they will see what they need to fix in that first game against Florida, which I think they lose, by the way, and then they can repair it from there. So they might be a little bit of a different team than you see in the game against Florida 2 weeks later. Be interesting to see. So now we get to the top 3. This one was pretty tough because we kind of went back and forth on this. And actually, the bowl game from last year had to be brought into perspective here. But ultimately, we went with Virginia, number 3, South Carolina as the number 2 toughest game, which I think is going to get a lot of hell from people. Because I think that... Am I the only one that's seeing like so many Tar Heel fans just absolutely destroy South Carolina on Twitter, thinking that this team is not good at all? And it's like, and look, I'm going to tell you, that is not the truth at all. They play in the SEC. They have a quarterback who's been at it for a while. Jake Bentley is the starter. Ryan Helinski's not winning that job. That is long gone. Bentley came out, proved that within the first couple of weeks of spring camp that was not happening. They still have talent at wide receiver. I feel like this defense might be the best since Spurrier. It's going to be close. Their defensive line is definitely the best since Clowney left. But I don't know. I know you're a guy that's really, really sold on this game being number 2. I was the one that was leaning more towards Virginia.
Yeah, no. Virginia, I think for Carolina, we match up well with them. I mean, Larry Fedora almost beat them last year, so.
Almost beat them 2 years in a row.
So I think talent-wise, we probably got more talent. We've upgraded the coaching. Games at home.
Oh, yeah, Virginia, yeah.
Yeah, very winnable game for Carolina. I look at South Carolina. It's the opening game of the year. You got a new offense, a new defense, a true freshman quarterback. It's not at home. It's not on the road, but there's a good chance we might be outnumbered in Charlotte because South Carolina fans travel as good as any fan base in college football. They go.
Right.
They'll go anywhere to watch.
I agree with that.
They'll watch their team play. I'm a bigger fan of Jake Bentley than most. I think he gets a lot of hell that's undeserving. He just is the same quarterback as he was as a freshman. He hasn't improved anywhere. I like that they're going to be able to run the ball. We haven't stopped the run in a decade. Defensively, they're solid because Will Muschamp coaches outside the ball really well. I look at Virginia. Virginia is what they are. They're going to run the ball, try to shorten the game, play good defense.
I'm going to be interested to see what Virginia is this year because their best player for the first time in a very long time is Bryce Perkins, who is a quarterback. They lose Jordan Ellis at running back. They lose Olamide Zaccheaus at wide receiver. But here's the thing about this game. This game is on November 2nd. If this game was earlier in the year, it would be further down.
Exactly. And that was also, and I told you part of it was more the scheduling. We open with South Carolina. We don't know who we are yet.
I agree. That's
Virginia,
the reason why it's 2.
We'll know who we are.
I agree. I do agree with that. And I also, here's the other thing. I can't be a hypocrite because I predicted that we would upset Virginia. So how is that going to be the second toughest game and I predict we pull an upset? But here's the thing about Virginia. Shockingly to me, they were a heavy favorite to win the Coastal. I'm going to be honest. I was very shocked by that considering they haven't beaten Virginia Tech in 12 years. I mean, it seems like what's going to more than likely happen is that game will come down, or that the division will come down to that game and they will lose because it's Virginia. And Virginia Tech will win. Whether that puts Miami in or that puts Virginia Tech in, that's pretty much how I see it. So I think that's interesting. I think Carolina will win this game in an upset, but I think this is a very tough game against a Virginia team that honestly is probably the best that we've seen them since the 90s.
Yeah.
And you got to hand it to Bronco Mendenhall, a hell of a job. South Carolina, I don't want to say too much on them because we will talk about them more when we get to Charlotte and we do the pregame show. One of the interesting things with them, is Tavian Feaster going to play in that game or not? Because now he is at South Carolina. He will be a tough guy to slow down for us. Although I think we will be better this year defensively than last year. I mean, that first game, it could be a little rough. And then, so that rounds us out because we already talked Clemson. So there we go. So how about that? The rivals are 1-2 on the schedule. And South Carolina is, it's kind of shocking that it's number 2. We want to hear your guys' submissions. Please submit that to us on Facebook. You can do it here at Tough Blog on Facebook, or you can hit me up on Twitter at Future Tar Heel, him on Twitter at Josh Marlowe 5, or Joshua Marlowe 5, excuse me. And then also the Heel Tough Blog Twitter feed. That is at Heel Tough Blog on Twitter. Let us know. easiest to hardest, even if you just want to do top 3 hardest, top 3 easiest. I think top 3 hardest would be a little bit tougher for you, mainly because Clemson's number 1, but then after that, what do you guys have? We would love to hear those submissions. We thought it was a great topic. We hope you guys really enjoyed the topic, and we look forward to it. We're literally 10 days away, so there will be a podcast next week, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. So I wanted to tell you, make sure we just talked about it. We're going out in Charlotte. We're actually going to be live on location for that game against South Carolina. We're going to be at Moo and Brew Restaurant before the game starts, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's going to be a 2-hour show. And we want you guys to stop by 1300 Central Avenue. It's 10 minutes away from the stadium. So it's really right down the block. It won't take you that long to get there. Come on by, hang out with us, talk a little Carolina football. We're going to have some cool stuff going on. We're trying to get some t-shirts made for us for the event. It's we're going to have the Heel Tough Blog logo put on there and everything like that. So I have to shout out Hannah Fawcett, who is a friend of mine. She actually made the logo a few years ago. She did such a great job. She's actually going to try to put together something else for us that we can get on the t-shirts. We'll have to see because it's going to be a little close to the deadline, so I may have to make them now. And we are planning on giving away a t-shirt to a fan. I have a helmet that is signed from 2015. We're going to bring it out there. If you can name the one player that has signed it that is still on the roster, you can't walk up and look at the helmet and examine it closely. You have to tell us at the event. Just walk up to the table, let us know. You will win that t-shirt. So if we don't have them printed up, we'll take your address down. We'll send it to you via the mail, snail mail, as they say. We'll do that. Make sure that you guys get it. We're really excited about that. Also, we're really excited about the fact that we got former Tar Heels coming out. So we got a guy that still lives in the Charlotte area, Ryan Houston, coming from Matthews, the former running back. He's going to come up and hang out with us. But also, we got some guys that are traveling a little bit. Nah Brown, he's coming down from Asheville. He's up there on ESPN Asheville, does a fantastic job up there. Former wide receiver. He was actually recruited and played under Mac Brown for his entire career. So we're going to have him on set. He's going to come on and talk to us. Errol Hood, the former cornerback from the Carl Torbush era. He's going to come on and sit down with us. Of course, his son plays at Richmond High School in Rockingham, North Carolina as well. So we'll talk a little bit to him about Caleb and maybe what he's thinking, another Carolina legacy that could potentially land with Mac Brown in Chapel Hill. That would be very interesting. And then we'll talk to Gerard James, the former, I think he was a Butch Davis commit, played under Everett Withers and Larry Fedora guy. So he could tell us a whole bunch of different stuff. We'll ask him about that, but we'll also ask him about overall the excitement about Carolina that he has for this season. He's a guy that keeps up with the team very closely because he was a graduate assistant on the team just a few years ago. He's actually, I believe now, up in Baltimore with a few of our guys. James Hurst, the offensive tackle who's up there, as well as R.J. Prince. So all those guys coming out to join us. Come out. Again, that address, 1300 Central Avenue in Charlotte. If you can't make it out, make sure you tune in on the Heel Tough Blog Facebook page. So now we turn to the 40-yard dash. And in this edition of the 40-yard dash, we are focusing on preseason football. 23 former Tar Heels participated in the opening 2 weeks of NFL preseason. Andre Smith was a standout in week 1, 6 tackles, all solo tackles for the Carolina Panthers. It looks like he's going to earn a roster spot this year. Looks like a full-time roster spot with guys like David Mayo moving on, as well as Thomas Davis. So it looks like he's going to have a chance to actually have a relatively significant rotational role. That's good news for Andre. Quiet week 2 for our guys. Trey Boston, probably the headliner. He had 2 tackles, played a little bit early on, and then was taken out. He's going to start after re-signing with Carolina. It seems like he's going to be the starter there, so that's great news for Trey. Great guy. We saw him hanging out at the WFNZ draft party, and he does, he's been a guy that we just don't understand why he's not getting more love, because he's done such great things since he's moved on from Carolina, both in San Diego. I believe they were still in San Diego at the time he was on the roster with the Chargers, and then with the Arizona Cardinals. Another Cardinal that showed out, TJ Logan, didn't really have the greatest game, but probably got the most burn, 5 carries, 15 yards rushing on the ground, and then also was the primary kick returner for Arizona in that preseason game. So TJ looks like he's starting to find his rhythm there after, of course, being injured last preseason. 2 former Tar Heels are back with NFL teams. Elijah Hood signed with the Jaguars earlier in the week, and then just yesterday, Landon Turner signed with Seattle as they try to get some depth at the offensive guard position after they lost one of their guys, Demetrius Cox, who went down over the weekend. So that is this edition of the Heel Tough Blog podcast. As I told you earlier, please like, subscribe, and rate the podcast. Let us know if we're doing a good job or bad job. Honestly, if you write down that we're doing a bad job, we really don't care. We just want to hear the good ones. We'll read those on air. The bad ones, no. If you put them in there, we'll definitely look at them. And, we try to get better every single time that we're on here. So we really appreciate all of you guys listening. Of course, we just had the 100th edition of the podcast. You guys can go back and listen to that, where we tell you who we think the greatest player in Tar Heel football history is. And then we've got some other great editions of the podcast that just came out. 102, that's Pat James. He goes over some of the stuff that we talked about, during fall camp. Also talks about Sam Howell. Great stuff from Pat. He gives you some great insight from Go Heels. Love talking to him. And then Jacob Turner is episode 101. Jake, he comes on, does a fantastic job, gives you so much great information, and really a guy that comes from a good outlet in Tar Heel Illustrated. It's a Rivals Associated outlet. I think a lot of people think that those guys are really just going to give you the facts. Jake gives you a lot of good opinions. So I love having Jacob Turner on. Go back and listen to those 2 editions of the podcast. You can find it again. Apple, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, TuneIn.com, TuneIn app, anywhere you can find podcasts has it. Also, you can go to Spreaker.com. That's where we host it. And BigHeadsMedia.com is going to have it as well. Make sure you guys go check them out. They have some great stuff over there, all sorts of great podcasts that you guys can check out as well. And then, let's see, HeelToughBlog.com. That was the other thing that I wanted to point out. I'm already forgetting what I'm supposed to be pointing out here. Go online. We have our position previews up there that we do every single year. Defensive line just got posted last night. Linebackers being worked on as we speak. Defensive backs and special teams will be coming out before the season starts. So make sure you guys go do that. We'll have a preview of the South Carolina game. I'll be previewing it like I have normally done in the past. I will be doing my recaps during the season as well as I have what we learned today. I'll give you the 4, 5, 6, however many headlines I pull out of it, I'll give to you guys. And then one new feature that we're going to have is the trench reports. Those will be done by the guy you just heard, Josh Marlowe. He's going to be doing that. He's a Dallas Cowboy fan, so he loves the trenches. We slapped him a few times because he's a Dallas Cowboy fan, but he's going to do some trench reports for us because that's what he loves. So you guys can check all that great stuff out during the season. HeelToughBlog.com has it all. That's also the place that you can check out the podcast if you want to go through the website and, drive those numbers up of visitors to the website. Really would appreciate that. Also, make sure you subscribe to the mailing list so that you can get all the articles, all the other great content that you get. It's really a great thing that we put together. So, we love giving you guys all the information, and we hope that you guys will do everything you can to follow along. Again, you can also check out the Facebook page. Make sure you go back, watch the open practice takeaways, and then that's where you're going to find the live pregame show. Heel Tough Blog on Facebook. Just search that. Spaces in between the words, of course, or you could just type in Facebook.com/HeelToughBlog, and it'll take you there. Again, on Twitter, at Future Tar Heel. Josh's on Twitter, at Joshua Marlowe 5. And then, of course, at Heel Tough Blog is the Twitter. So once again, want to thank Josh for joining me for this edition of the podcast. Want to hear your submissions. Make sure you guys send those in to us. Like and subscribe to the podcast as well as review it. And remember, as always, go Tar Heels.